All right, I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka SomeGadgetGuy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. But the QA is the important part because that obviously stands for question and answers. We like to make this an interactive conversation. Follow the news as it evolves. It's why I like to hold my podcast on a Monday. We get to sort out of all our feels from the week before. Maybe some news broke over the weekend, and then we can start our tech week fresh. Really get off on the right foot and make sure that we're moving beyond just the headlines. That we're digging a little deeper and we're following up on some of the stories that really affect us as we go on. So I'm already seeing a crazy great lineup in our live chat this week. Clifton Thomas, Dave Burns, Kyle Ruggles. Hey Kyle, what's up, buddy? Blind Prosopagnosiac. I've mispronounced that. Q3 Becker, Simon Says, Gorm Lord, Dave Burns, Vazikos, Awesome Possum, Walt, ER 1980, Swallow Like Solo, Charlie Spirit Song, My Tech Review, Raymondit. Raymondit and I sharing some maudlin commiseration over LG and no V70 at present. Al Spockley. Juan, your impromptu appearance on Easy Computer Solutions stream was a surprise. What a fun bunch, hey? I love catching their streams. Gadget Goddess, Tech King Mike, Barry Johnson, Eric at Easy Computer Solutions. I'm missing I'm missing a couple of the folks who stream in that crew, but they've become kind of my go-to throughout the week. Like I'm cooking in the kitchen and I just need to have a stream on, and they're really fun people. Some really fun community and tech chatter. Dave Burns, my OnePlus 9 Pro should be arriving tomorrow or Wednesday. So in the second half in the gadget block, we're going to share some thoughts, just the recent announcement on the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra. Xiaomi just took the wraps off of that. Also, they're talking up a lower end phone, a Mi 11 Lite, which looks kind of interesting too. There's been a little bit of controversy online as videos on the Mi 11 Lite are hitting the web, but people might have broken an embargo, which always gets a little dicey. But then, of course, the biggie, I've spent the last weekend, sort of from Thursday night to now, with the OnePlus 9 Pro. And anyone who's saying bad things about this phone is absolutely bad at tech. But alongside, I've also started firing up and digging into the OnePlus 9. So some early thoughts on this phone. I've focused a little bit more on the 9 Pro, but I really want to make sure we're covering both devices. So if you've got questions, I really want to save the gadget block, a good chunk of the gadget block, so we can dig in. Some really fun phone chatter, and I'm almost done with my buy the benchmarks for the OnePlus 9 Pro. So if you're watching this or listening to this, I feel like we can spoil some of those results that I'm going to write up in the article, because it's looking pretty good. I'm feeling better about where we're at for this generation. I need to kind of keep this podcast tight, which for me means I'm really going to try not to go over 2 hours. So I'm going to save some of my early rambling. How was your weekend? I hope you had a lovely weekend. I hope you got to spend some time unplugging, visiting family and friends, either in person, maybe you're vaxxed, or maybe digitally, just getting to catch up with loved ones. And also, I just hope you had some real good food. I shared a photo. I did another round of my homemade ramen. My Instant Pot ramen is getting real strong. Real strong. Dave Burns, everyone derail. Derail now. Hurry, say something ignorant about LG's quad DAC. That'll get one off on a 20-minute tangent. From Cash, they're putting the 9 Pro against the S21 and iPhone 12 Pro and immediately writing it off. Again, anyone who's acting like OnePlus has lost their way and is not really doing a fair price performance comparison, I feel is really bad at tech. MSRP on a Galaxy S. You know what? We're gonna save that for the second half. Look at you. You guys are actually derailing me here. Let's really knock out housekeeping, and I'm gonna move through this quick. And I am gonna move through this quick. Because I want to get to some news. There is some interesting news happening, longer term stories that we need to keep an eye on. So there's not a lot that we're going to sit there and focus on for each individual story. I really want to spend most of this talking about the phones and the techs and the gadgets because that's way more fun. Here, let me get this set up here. Someone made a Master of None reference to some other reviews from the past. There's a lot of that happening with OnePlus right now, and it's not a good look for techies. All right, housekeeping. We are 9:06 in the AM. I don't know. I'm really going to try and keep this to under 10 minutes. So, first up, this is just a follow-up. These are my companion videos. Galaxy S21 camera conclusion. Last week, we talked about the full camera deep dive. This is a 30-minute review of the cameras on the S21. Now, public, I put out a cut-down version just sharing my conclusions for the S21. This is a little different. I don't always share this. I am following up on these performance issues and performance concerns that I have with Samsung this year. The S21 camera app is not smooth. It can't maintain 60 frames per second in the viewfinder. Animations are janky when you're switching modes. It's not the nicest experience. And this is on top of some of the concerns for thermal throttling, some of the video clips that I had that just ended. The phone would just cut off recording, even though I wasn't out of storage space. I feel like there's a lot more polish that needs to happen here. And Samsung gets all of this credit. Oh, they're really good at software now. The shooting experience here is not as nice as where we were on phones last year. I'm running circles around the S21 with V60s and Xperias and the OnePlus 9. And I feel like Samsung really needs to step up the quality. Putting out lots of software updates is nice. It's reassuring that Samsung is addressing these issues. The S21 camera experience is marred. Excellent camera hardware, but marred by a premium tier device that does not live up to premium tier expectations outside of tech nerds really trying to maximize their SEO on their reviews and their videos. Flip side of that is, let's say you're not interested in spending $700 plus on a phone. I had to throw a shout out to the folks at Republic Wireless. They're starting to step up their 5G offerings. Republic was one of the very, very first MVNOs that ever reached out to me when I started doing solo videos. And this was way back in the day where they had like one little Moto. It was the Moto Defy. And so they sent over another Motorola. This is actually the first Motorola I've gotten to spend any serious time with since leaving Pocket now. So I fired up the Moto One 5G Ace. Sells full price on Republic Wireless, $350. So we're in Pixel 4a territory for a humongous battery, multi-camera array, a larger display, and a 5G radio. So I really felt like that was the right time to do some comparison. You know, like this phone costs the same as a Pixel 4a, but it has a ton more hardware. So what does that mean? And how should we compare these different types of devices? And what are our expectations for things like longer term software support, where it's absolutely fair to be a bit critical about how manufacturers are putting out and supporting phones. But above all, it was just a monster phone. For anyone who's going to pick up, you know, $1,000 phone and put in their comment, but what about the average consumers? What will they do with this $1,000 hardware? Again, bad at tech. Real bad. Average consumers are buying average phones, and the experience in that $300 to $400 price tier is phenomenal. Like, the daily driver usage on that Moto was flippin' great. So I feel much better. You know, definitely still some concerns, like I said, and you can watch the video for all of my full thoughts, not just this rambling diatribe here. But the point I'm trying to get across in these videos, back in the day, if one of my family members walked out with some gut rot Snapdragon 400 series phone and they ended up paying full MSRP for it because their carrier store salesman was kind of a jerk, that would hurt my heart. And those phones could still have cost like $200 to $300. Now, I'm watching in my comments as people are walking out of MVNOs with Nord N10s, these Motos, the TCLs, and they're getting them for like $30 when they sign up on a new line. You know, they're getting them at extreme cost savings because they're signing up for service. If you're getting a Nord N10 for like $100 because you sign up for a new line, I don't feel bad. I feel like that's a good buy. Same thing, you know, from the Stylo 6 on, we've seen over these last 2 years just how aggressive this lower middle tier is starting to hit, and how those phones are now starting to very, very much upset the market for the entry level cheapy phones here in the United States, which is awesome. ER 1980. Still hurts my heart when work colleagues are overpaying on contracts for iPhones they don't need. Same thing with my family members. I've talked about my cousins who are rocking like iPhone Pros, and they do not do anything pro on their phones, and nor can they. Like I was making fun of one of my cousins because he was watching a Twitch stream and then he couldn't do anything else on his phone because he was in the running on a contest. And I pull out my V60 and like, you can't do 3 things at the same time? Why can't you do 3 things at the same time on your pro phone? And then he got real mad because my phone cost a lot less than his iPhone Pro. All right, moving right along, the biggie last week, and it was the biggie, and it took so long to render this video. I shoot a bit of 8K for my camera deep dives, but I never finish videos in 8K. I always finish videos in 4K 60 or 1080p 30. So finishing my OnePlus 9 Pro vlog in 8K took so long. It ended up being an almost 8 gigabyte video file. It's only like 7 minutes long. It's not even long enough for me to get a second ad block. You know, like YouTube doesn't let me put extra advertising on it. And I think it took over 30 minutes to render. So I'm not going to do a ton of videos in 8K on my current setup. I'm going to need to beef up my graphics card because my Threadripper absolutely handled it fine. It's just CPU renders are slower. My 2080 choked on the footage from the OnePlus 9 while trying to render it. It basically just like, nope, out of video RAM. We're done. We're done here. Resolve was not playing. Yeah, the video footage from the OnePlus 9 Pro, 8K at 30 frames per second. I can't see dropped frames, where I feel like Samsung and LG 8K is a bit glitchier, is a lot stutterier. This is surprisingly smooth. And it wasn't like I shot one little clip here in my office under an air conditioner. I was out in mid 70-degree weather, clip after clip after clip after clip. I mean, if I were really doing a walk and talk vlog, this is how I would have produced it. And the phone just kept going. Like it did not stop me at all. And the mic's surprisingly good. So I also got to do like a little microphone showdown between a lav like right under my throat and then also the mics on the phone. And I was not expecting OnePlus microphones to sound so good. So, anyone who's saying these cameras suck is really bad at photography. I'm very, very pleased with this initial impression on the OnePlus 9. A couple other projects that are going up. This one I'm really excited about. It took a while to set this up and to get it produced, but as part of the carrier and the coverage that I'm running over at reviews.org, talking about ISPs and cell phone providers, and we're going to start talking about satellite internet here a little bit more too. I really wanted to do a follow-up story on Verizon. They're doing a number of programs and initiatives supporting teachers and education, as we're doing students that are affected by the digital divide. And so I got to This is an interview with Matt Coakley, who's a part of their consumer home division. He does a lot of work on the FiOS side. And he was really upfront about some of the challenges in just different markets, how to get people connected. Every region is a different problem. And so there are a number of solutions that Verizon is looking at, not only just for homeschool initiatives and work from home initiatives, but also like just partnering up with some interesting organizations to give teachers better resources, as they're now having to do like Twitch streams to keep their kids, their students entertained or engaged. Not, I mean, entertained and informed and educated. It's messy. It's a really crazy landscape right now. So I'm really excited that the team at reviews.org let me kind of spearhead that. There's a little politics in there, and it's also, you know, like, I've been very critical about some of Verizon's business practices in the past on this podcast. But when you see like some of the programs, you know, in some of the departments within a massive organization like Verizon, that was something that I really felt was important to talk about. Again, I want to highlight when a company's doing good work. Like, more of that, please. So I'm hoping to follow this up with maybe a couple other series on some NVNOs, and then also what maybe T-Mobile is going to be doing for consumers soon. And hopefully get like Dez or someone interesting to talk to talk about not Verizon, T-Mobile's recent initiatives too. And TK Bay in the live chat hooking up some awesome subs. He's gifting tier 1 subs to Swallow Like Solo, Ty Fyro, Geet Madden, Man Illusion, and Video Arcade Films. Buddy, what are you doing in here, man? Thank you so much. And then Steve is telling me to hydrate, and Man Illusion is telling me to check my posture. So everyone's gotta send. I gotta send some more traffic to TK. He did his live stream on Saturday on the road from his sexy new automobile. But we, of course, just to wrap up housekeeping, TK and I run a weekly show, check-in kind of a podcast called The Best of Our Week. And this week, I mean, we're holding up productivity phones from one of our previous challenges in this thumbnail, but it was a heavy OnePlus 9 show. Both of us sharing some thoughts on OnePlus, and it was a really nice conversation to wrap the week up on. Excuse me. So that's housekeeping. I pushed it to 11 minutes. That's like the fastest I've done housekeeping in a while. So yeah, best of our week every Thursday night, Pacific time. But then also you've got to catch that stream from TK from this Saturday. It was really cool. And again, is my buddy. He finally kind of did something nice for himself. Apparently he spent all weekend cruising around Southern California with the fam. I mean, like, that sounds exactly like what I need. So I'm just real proud of him for taking that step. It's pretty sweet. You know, again, it's good when like a buddy of yours, you know, he's good people, he does something nice for himself. So all of the stories, all of the links, all of the housekeeping, everything we're going to be talking about is going to be available on the show notes for this week's episode on SomeGadgetGuy.com. Gary the Fireman, I have car envy, TK Alpha Bay. TK Tesla Bay. I love it, Joe. Yeah, again, I mean, like, I feel like he's done a video about the Tesla, so now isn't that technically a tax write-off? Like, it's on his channel, it's a part of his work. Yeah, he can write off the whole car as a business expense, right? Makes sense to me. All right, let's get into some news. Let's rock this out. I've been trying to stay a little politics light over the last couple of weeks, just because this is that rolling calm before the smartphone storm. And we're going to be getting a bunch of devices out to review. I still have a ton of accessories that I'm chewing through. Some headphones, the UPerfect laptop dock. Oh, I completely spaced. I should have made this a part of the gadget block too. The folks at Amazfit sent over the T-Rex. And this thing is a monster fitness watch. Sorry, we can talk about that a little too when we get into the gadget block. But there are a couple stories that I feel we need to follow up on. Since the beginning of 2020, a significant portion of our conversation in the politics block or in the news block for this podcast has been what to do about the spread of bad information from cable news to social media these ideas kind of take root, and then it's very difficult to untangle. It's a very cultish kind of reaction from 5G conspiracies to like flat earthers, anti-vaxxers. It takes a small number of people. Like, for example, I believe there was another study done that the origination of a lot of these anti-vax conspiracies and COVID is a hoax conspiracies came from a very tiny population of online social media users. One said like the spread of Twitter misinformation can originate from as few as 12 individual accounts just getting signal boosted by an army of Russian bots. So we've got to be very vigilant. And this starts to stray in other conversations too, like what do we do about free speech versus platforms that are private? Do we try to force compelled speech from the government, which I'm not in favor of? And what do we do about broadcast? So one of the free market solutions is, of course, a lawsuit. If there's a claim being made by a media organization that runs afoul of the intellectual property and the trademarks of another brand, then we could see lawyers get involved and start making some fuss. So not something that we're going to dig too deep into here, but there will be a link from the Associated Press, a follow-up lawsuit against Fox News. Dominion is going to sue Fox News for $1.6 billion over 2020 elections. And this is also following a $2 billion lawsuit from another voting machine manufacturer. So this is a great write-up from AP, just kind of breaking down the timeline on how we got to this point, how Fox News as a cable media outlet is still somewhat sowing seeds of malcontent with their viewership that, but some people say that this might have been a stolen election, and is just undermining the integrity of our elections. For whatever reason, we're reluctant to engage with Fox News as in any sort of law enforcement or political action. But, over $3 billion in lawsuits is probably going to have an effect on the style, the content, and the tone of their editorial. Even if it's just some backhanded retraction that doesn't really mean anything to the Fox News audience, it's at least a data point to consider, especially because, so many of their talking heads, whenever they're in individual lawsuits, the lawyers representing them basically come out and flat out say, this is all an act, this is all theater, none of this is true, and no reasonable person would believe the rantings of this individual on cable news. So it's protected under sort of like free speech and satire. It's entertainment, but it's under the banner of Fox News. So this is going to be something we really need to keep an eye on, how the courts and the lawyers sort of hammer this stuff out. Whether it's a public policy initiative, we probably won't see a lot of traction there. But when money's involved, that might change some of their behavior. So moving right along, this one I was so lit up to see what Arizona would do because it's just such a crazy story. Arizona had a bill. We talked about this a couple weeks back. Arizona was putting up a bill to vote on, the Arizona state legislature, that would have forced Apple to open up alternative payments on the App Store. And I believe the focus was for any developers that were based in the state of Arizona. Now that sounds like, oh, well, but who's gonna blah, 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 do app development in Arizona? The issue with that is Arizona is a state that kind of encourages sort of a fee or tax haven style relationship where someone can go and very easily set up an LLC or incorporate and not get hit with a bunch of monthly fees. Like if I set up a new corp here in California, my yearly renewal fees just to exist are very expensive. So a lot of people will play fast and loose with, well, my corporate headquarters are in Arizona. And I feel like this was Arizona's subtle and sneaky way to get app developers to set up shop in Arizona. And then they would be allowed to put up alternative payment mechanisms on the App Store. If this bill went through, this would have been like, leverage against Apple to try and enable that. Again, it's all just kind of a shell game with addresses and corporations and money. So hold on, I got to take a sip of water here. Ah. So this bill was going up, and I'm actually sharing the Verge article here because same thing. Apparently, they were doing what I was doing. We were watching. It was scheduled for the day that we were watching, and then it just never arrived. The Arizona state legislature just skipped it. So this was written up by Nick Stat on The Verge. The Arizona State Senate was scheduled to vote on an unprecedented and controversial bill Wednesday that would have imposed far-reaching changes on how Apple and Google operate their respective mobile app stores, specifically by allowing alternative in-app payment systems, but the vote never happened, having been passed over on the schedule without explanation. The Verge watched every other bill on the schedule be debated and voted on over the Senate's live stream, but Arizona HB 2005, listed first on the agenda, never came up. So Apple declined to comment to The Verge, but apparently, and again, I would recommend reading through this article. It's pretty well sourced and cited. Apparently, and I'm sure this is going to come as a big surprise to everyone who watches and listens to this podcast. Apparently, there was a lot of lobbying activity from Apple and Google to try and pause the vote on this bill. Apparently, they didn't want this bill to get voted on. That's very surprising to me. Apple and Google being a part of the state political process to this degree. I'm sure no one saw that coming. I was really curious to see what Arizona was going to do because it easily could have been challenged. I feel like how we do business online and with different marketplaces, like I don't know that this could have passed constitutionality, but it was just such a targeted such a specific attack on Apple's business model. But apparently, some negotiating has happened behind the scenes to further some debate before this bill goes up for a vote. So we talk about these billion and trillion dollar corporations having influence over the political process. It's pretty clear when we don't even get to vote on these bills because of their influence. So yes, Vasicos 8, my pearls. And again, I mean, when we talk about the money involved for influencing state politicians, man, it's not much. Like if I were independently wealthy, I'd very seriously be looking at like, well, a couple $1,000s in campaign contributions seems to generate some activity with being able to converse and influence a politician. Yeah, Kyle Ruggles, just send a few 100,000 to some senators or whatever, and there you go, pay them off. And that's like a few 100,000 in aggregate. Like that's if you want to influence a bunch of politicians. It's not like each one is going to cost like $1 million. No, you can get billions of dollars in legal considerations for not a lot of money per politician. All right, moving right on. So yeah, there's not much more to dig into there. We've got to just keep an eye. Again, Apple is still under an antitrust investigation for how they operate the App Store. More developers have come out saying they don't like how Apple does business. Apple is very inconsistent with how they do business. And Google just recently reduced their commission on Google Play app pricing. So what is it? Google Play is now 15% up to your first million. So I'm hoping that these pieces are going to become a bit more fluid, while Google has also, in Android, made it just a little bit easier for alternative app stores to exist on Android devices. So I feel like Google is taking some steps to manage their visibility and their actionability as how they operate their app store, Apple has been digging their heels in, and just this, we refuse to let anyone set up or implement their own payment seems out of date with how consumers do business. It seems like this is something Apple will eventually need to budge on. Just to have access to iPhone users, you need to pay us 30%, unless you're Amazon, because that's different. All app developers are equal, but some are more equal than others. So yeah, and yeah, in 1980, thank you, that's correct. It's 15% for the first million. Yeah, again, it's a healthy and vibrant competitive marketplace of ideas. All right, this is the biggie for the news block. I'm very afeared of this headline. I feel like there are so many things that I like how Microsoft is operating server side for corporate software licensing for, platforms as services. Windows is becoming more of a service of an operating system as opposed to this box that you buy every 3 or 4 years with an upgrade disk inside. And I love Office. I really do. I really genuinely prefer working in Office over working in Google Docs. But when it comes to things like messaging, um, it makes me concerned when a Microsoft or a Google tries to. Let's just go to the headline. This is coming from VentureBeat, and I kind of hope this doesn't happen, but Discord is exploring a sale that could make it worth more than $10 billion. And the company most floated for picking up Discord is Microsoft. So Nick Fell, flee to Telegram. This is written up by Dean Takahashi. I've mispronounced that. I apologize, Dean. Discord is going through a sales process now that could result in a purchase of the communications and chat platform for more than $10 billion, GamesBeat has learned. Two sources familiar with the matter said that Discord is exploring its options for a sale in the wake of interest from multiple parties that want to buy the company. And one source said the company has signed an exclusive acquisition deal with one party, meaning it is in final negotiations about a sale. This news comes after Discord raised $140 million in December at a $7 billion valuation. It's interesting to me that Discord could go for as little as 10, but then again, I've been doing so much on Discord recently that it's become a more important part of managing a little community and having conversations and reaching out to people. I've tried getting my family over to Discord so we could do a family game night, because it's just better. Recently, we were talking about services like Clubhouse, right? Oh, I want to have a forum that's audio and we can have voice and group chat. And you can make that. You can make your own exclusive little podcasting town hall conversation style setup with people that you know and you care about on something like Discord. And we've also done some other things too, like Newegg was using Discord really heavy for some of our live streaming. The one that I think it came out really well was our post CES. Trisha, Mike, and I, just the three of us, all on Discord, and then streaming that out to YouTube and Twitch. So it's just such a great little platform, and it's one of those things. It's you start using a service. I am paying for Nitro Classic, just to support what I think is a great little service. And you just hope you would wish that it would just stay independent. If they can find profitability, if they can monetize their users, if they can create something that's really engaging. But Discord also still kind of feels like one of the last services of the old social media web. We're going to make this service. We're going to get a bunch of people on it for free. We're going to get them really lit up about how cool it is. And then we'll figure out better monetization and ways to profit off of this. And I feel like if Discord had just been better monetized up front, or more clearly monetized up front, it would be easier for this platform to sort of remain independent. When you do this dance of cool and free, and then we'll figure out the monetizing, I feel like that's a more obvious play at getting acquired. We want to make this, and we want to show that people can do, team speak, video and audio chat, and text rooms, live chat. We want to show that this could be something really cool for Xbox. So we're going to make it, and then we're going to hope that Microsoft buys it. And that's our play. That's less cool to me now. I really want, independent and standalone services that, I kind of have a clearer idea of who they do business with and how they do business, and I have more control over my relationship between them and the company. Microsoft makes sense from an Xbox perspective. I'm like Discord integrated into Game Pass and Live, like it makes a lot of sense. It really does from a corporate perspective, but I would prefer Discord be an independent organization, be an independent service. That's just what I would like. It makes me really anxious. And again, it makes me really anxious because like where does this really end up at Microsoft? Does this get absorbed by Teams, by Skype, by Xbox? Who really lands Discord if Microsoft decides to buy it? And will it go the way of like Mixer, right? It's not to say that everything Microsoft has done in gaming over the last year or two has been bulletproof. So definitely some concerns there. Dave Burns, that's the Silicon Valley dream. Make something great that everyone loves and then sell it so you never have to do anything ever again. It's the American way. Kyle Ruggles, it's like LastPass. It's free. Now it's not. Google Photos. It's free in June. Nope. It's starting to feel more and more like a bait and switch, right? From Google Photos to LastPass to if this then that. Don't build your service on cool and free, or at least now. I mean, I feel like consumers should be way savvier. If you're getting into a service because it's cool and free, then you have to know that there will be some shenanigans when that company really starts trying to monetize. I just don't think it's a great look anymore. To me, it's reading more and more like weak sauce hype, and then kind of like Clubhouse. The Clubhouse business model. Let's build this on FOMO and celebrities, and it's starting to peak and downslide as people are, as the company is struggling to keep up with what people might be interested in this version of a platform. And a Twitter and a Facebook can roll over and do the exact same business model, but with, a much larger critical mass of users and participants. So if Clubhouse had come out limited, exclusive, and paid, they could have made a different argument about, hey, you get what you pay for. If you want to do this for free on Facebook, well, then you are a part of the product. They're buying and selling you and your audio conversations. But we here at Clubhouse, no. This is an exclusive organization, and our rates are very affordable so that you can join these conversations and have access to movers and shakers in these various industries. Again, Discord just feels like it's right on the cusp of that. It's such a progressive service for connecting people, but I feel like they could have gotten ahead of the monetization a bit better, unless the plan all along was to get bought out. Well, I mean, from F. Mooney, considering Mixer and Groove failed, Microsoft needs something to keep them in the game. I don't think Microsoft does. I mean, Game Pass, Microsoft Live, Xbox Live, Xbox, games for Windows, Office, Windows 10. I feel like Microsoft is doing fine. I mean, really, when it comes to services and server side, and portability and streaming services, so much of the internet is built on Microsoft. I don't feel like Microsoft losing Mixer was really like that much of a blink at Microsoft corporate headquarters. All right, that's gonna do it for news. Boom. Ooh, Simon Says Hypno. My Series S arrived on Friday, and Game Pass is amazing. Game Pass is truly great. As Microsoft really is the the top option if we're talking about the Netflix of gaming. They're the company to watch. They're the company to beat. When it comes to not only streaming content, but then also the catalog combined, Game Pass is crazy. So, why don't we take a quick break here? I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay, so why don't we chat out the subreddit real quick, because someone was kicking a little butt this week on reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Every podcast has a subreddit. My subreddit is designed to try and help signal boost, organically find better SEO for content creators, and spread out a broader tech conversation. You step outside the YouTube algorithm and you'll find so many amazing, engaging, heartfelt, passionate content creators out there in the world of tech. And this is my little love letter to supporting a community of people that are making excellent content. Again, so much of this, like, I go and click on YouTube and then none of this stuff really shows up in my feed. I go over to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, and that conversation gets way more vibrant. So these are the top stories or the top submissions this week from Glowing Rectangles. Number one, a OnePlus 9 Pro 8K vlog? What? Well, look at that. When you really use the cameras on the OnePlus 9 Pro, you get some positive feedback from people, as opposed to just saying they're not good enough because you shared 3 HDR clips and a snippet of 1080p video. Well, wouldn't you know it, the OnePlus 9 Pro is actually a pretty solid shooter. Which is funny, because the number 2 submission on Glowing Rectangles is the Galaxy S21 camera conclusion from one Mr. SomeGadgetGuy. Boom. Boom. First place, second place. Boom. Take that, Matt Tyler. I don't think Matt's in the live chat right now, but he gets real cranky when I win again. So again, Steve likes to try and compete. Q3 Becker's like, oh no, you should downvote Juan's videos. No. That is not what we do at Glowing Rectangles. If you want to see someone take me out, share, support, contribute, and upvote like crazy. Don't try and take me out with some kind of campaign to make my videos perform poorer. Then I just shut down the subreddit. That makes me angry. You want someone else to take me out, you legit can contribute and share, and it just feels real good. Those were 2 very strong videos for me. I feel very well represented on the subreddit this week. And then rounding out the rest of this, we've got the Yotto USB mic from Tech PhD, 1,200 subscribers. This is such a good video. And again, I would highly recommend watching anything that TechAlter puts out. The insanely complex economics of making processors. Phenomenal. And then Easy Computer Solutions. OnePlus 9 cameras, why OnePlus can't get it right, from Wired Wednesday. It was a fun live stream. Some interesting people might have popped into that discussion just to chat about OnePlus cameras. And we've got Tech PhD again talking about a Galaxy Watch with Wear OS. We've got Eric talking about LG potentially leaving the marketplace. User update. No subscribers in the top 10 looking back at the Huawei Mate 10. I really need to point this out. 1, the Huawei Mate 10 was a phenomenal phone. But 2, this person shows no subscribers. So I'm going to click subscribe, and now I am a subscriber for user update, scoring really well this week on reddit.com/rglowingrectangles. I want you to think about your YouTube behavior. When was the last time YouTube served up a relevant topic video? I mean, again, I like going back to look at older phones and seeing how they've aged over time. When was the last time YouTube served you someone with no subscribers? Especially, not only just put it up as like a recommended video, put it up in the top 10 in your video feed. Has that ever happened to you on YouTube? Because it happened here on Glowing Rectangles, and it's a fun video. I purposely waited to do the subscribe thing until we were doing the broadcast. I was going to click subscribe anyway. We've got a ton of other things here too. How to remove bloatware from Xiaomi phones, a first look at the Vivo X60, TK's OnePlus 9 Pro top 5 features. We've got a case roundup from the Mouse Limitless. We've got Sony 365, considering some potential rumors on the Xperia 1 Mark III. We got a new security patch for the BlackBerry Key 2. That's from Tech Odyssey. Ton Mobile looking at the LG V60, and then of course some punchable face guy checking out a Moto. Right after that, a real world camera test from the OnePlus 9 Pro shot by Joshua Vergara. So many great videos this week. These last couple weeks have been incredible. I mean, just really strong on the subreddit. I think we jumped another 15 subscribers. What are we at right now? 1677. So 1,677 members on reddit.com/r/glowingrectangles. The submissions are on point, and we're starting to see more and more posts upvoted to double digits, especially posts from me, because I make amazeball videos. As you can see, this week, I'm totally in the lead. By a lot. But this is also that call to action. If you would like that broader tech conversation, if you want more resources, more points of view, better competition in the commentary space, this is where we absolutely need those upvotes. We need comments. We need interactions. We need activity, and then sharing. Sharing becomes a critical aspect of how you can support a content creator. That can be sharing on other social media. Like, you can click share in Glowing Rectangles and send a video directly out to any other social media, but then also sharing with relevant subreddits. Someone was sharing all of my LG videos to the LG V60 and LG Wing subreddits when I was, when I did my V60 follow-up. That kind of stuff is huge. On my video, I saw a bump in viewership when it went from Glowing Rectangles directly to an LG community. Now, that was a relevant video for that community. Don't just go spamming other subreddits, but there are all of these opportunities. I've heard, like, well, I don't want to share all over my Facebooks because I don't know that my family cares about all these tech videos. Well, if you care about content creators, taking a second to share in relevant forums is huge. That is such a benefit, and it helps tremendously in trying to get videos viewership, trying to help them monetize if they haven't monetized, trying to help them keep new people coming to their videos if they're a more established player. That matters. I can't tell you how much that little bit of effort, if you're already on Reddit and participating on Reddit, and then also hopefully it also just adds some karma. As you share things, you get little points on Reddit, and it makes you look cooler on Reddit so that your commentary is better valued if you ever join the comments on a video. So, reddit.com/r/glowingrectangles. I can't tell you, every week I get so excited to see how the week wrapped up. Like, whenever I'm getting ready in the morning, one of the first things I do before organizing all of my news topics is look at the subreddit. And it's always fun. Even when I'm not at the top of the subreddit, it's always fun to see what videos have been voted up to the top. And I'm just loving this little community more by the day. So, Loki Ted, don't let your double-digit upvoted videos go to your head. I mean, it's impossible to overstate and gloat when, because I'm not bragging. It's just the truth. I happen to rock. So there you go. It's not bragging when it's true. This isn't hyperbole. Hyperbole. I know how that word's actually pronounced. Dave Burns 2, and they didn't ban you? That's wild. Every time I share your face, I get banned. That's not a joke. I've been banned from 6 Reddits sharing your videos. So here's the deal. If you share a video of mine on our Android, it will be downvoted into oblivion, and then you'll be banned for, for self-promotion. They seem to think I run hundreds of dummy accounts to try and share my videos on our Android. I gave up on our Android years ago. That is a useless and bitter, acidic community that I really don't want much of anything to do with. So I would avoid them like the plague, especially with any of the videos that are being shared here because they're not popular enough. If you share someone with like 100 subscribers or no subscribers, they're going to think you're just self-promoting your own video. So don't do that. Avoid. But for smaller individualized subreddits, like the LG V60 subreddit has been on fire recently because there are a couple of little teething pains and issues with the Android 11 update on the LG V60. I've been in the comments there. I've been trying to help people sort through, like, have you done a hard reset? What are you doing for your radio? Did you try, contacting your carrier? Blah, 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 blah. So one of my videos over there seems to do really well. And I wasn't actively sharing all of my videos all of my LG videos to that subreddit. Some other people were also backing them up. So that kind of stuff, when it happens organically, is huge. Like that makes a tangible difference in how people find and view your videos. Dave Burns. I have been banned for self-promotion each time I don't even sound like Juan. Yeah, I mean, one, thank you for trying, but I'm putting it out there deliberately. Like, I feel like our Android has become so large that it's actively a dead subreddit. It is built solely to echo chamber the most popular content from the largest content creators. It is very difficult for smaller content creators to break through. They have the moderation team on that subreddit is aggressive in trying to hammer out less popular content. So I would avoid it. I've stopped. In fact, there have been a few times where like I've seen a post pop up because I still have it on Reddit. I've seen a post pop up and like, oh, well, like I could actually answer that question, but why would I contribute to their community? One, as soon as they see my name, they're gonna just say mean things about me anyway. And two, why work to try and play nice with them when they hate everything? So there are other places to be. All right. From Gormlord, I'm newish. Why do they hate Juan there? Because I like to whine about reviews. A part of every one of my reviews has some kind of media literacy component where I talk about the trends in reviews that are concerning to me and how we've been lockstep on a popularity algorithm train that has completely savaged a vibrant and diverse collection of opinions on gadgets. And it's leading to the demise of companies that we care about, from HTC to LG, where Motorola is in an interesting position. And now we're seeing, an entirely new market with Chinese manufacturers filling those gaps. And again, I like to point out how people are inconsistent. You can preach all you want about folding phones, but then I feel some of your points sound suspect when you complain about dual display. So stuff like that. And they really don't like that. They really don't like that. So if you post a video of mine there, I guarantee you immediately you'll get a comment. Oh, this guy again. All he talks about is video rendering and how every other reviewer is wrong. Within 30 seconds. It's not even a fun game. And again, I wouldn't recommend it because the more you get banned from some subreddits on Reddit, the less good you look and the harder it is to actively participate on Reddit. So just if you're thinking about sharing my videos, you can handily just sidestep our Android. They're really not worth it. And not only are they not worth it, those are really not the people I want commenting on my video. So I can always see if a video of mine does pick up any kind of traction on our Android, the tone of the comments goes immediately toxic. Like just gets ugly. And then I have to moderate all that. So it's best just to walk away. It's because Juan only talks about popular phones. Mooney. No. I mean, a lot of it is like, he's so anti Samsung. Well, I show my work. All right, we got to get into this gadget block. We've got 65 minutes to talk gadgets and stuff. There's one that I need to share here first, and I think Dave Burns. Yeah, Dave Burns just highlighted a comment. Dave Burns on the Patreon Discord has been an excellent resource just to talk about some of the broader component shortages. The dude is pretty sharp, and he also runs his own Twitch stream. He's really fun to watch. Gaming. I was watching a lot of his Witcher exploits recently. Just really fun to hang out with. So this comes by way of Reuters. Let me cue this up here. Xiaomi president says chip shortage has increased costs, may pass on to consumers. Reuters doesn't have a direct byline on this. It's just written by Reuters staff. Chinese smartphone maker Xiaomi's president Wang Zhang said on Wednesday that the global chip shortage was increasing the company's costs and implied that in some cases the prices of its products might rise as a result. Quote, "We will continue to optimize the costs of our hardware devices, that's for sure. To be honest, we will do our best to offer the price we can to consumers, but sometimes we may have to pass part of the cost increase to the consumer in different cases." So this is a spider web tangled story of component shortages, a super cycle of consumers buying new products from phones to laptops, tablets, and then also how each of these individual tiny little components has a ripple effect through so many various industries. I first started hearing about some of these issues through the lens of automotive issues. Car manufacturers were talking about problems sourcing certain parts, certain pieces. There's licensing issues where Qualcomm can come out with a new chipset, but they might license technology from another radio supplier so that the SoC has better modem management. That can slow down production on a premium tier chipset. And it's another reason why we might see this split at Qualcomm between chips like the 888, the 870, the 860, as they might be just kind of combining and recycling different in-house components that they have in supply. And then that has a ripple effect on smartphone manufacturers and consumer electronics manufacturers trying to pick up individual little pieces. Like, you might not be building a premium tier smartphone, but you still might need Bluetooth radios and antennas. And that is also getting held up in all of this various distribution and all these different problems. Add to that a global calamity like a boat getting stuck in a canal, holding up other shipments, and likely for over 10 days. It's going to take 10 days where billions of dollars are getting exhausted every day that these boats from the what is it, what was the name of the boat? Dang it. Hold on. I'm going to do boat in canal. Evergreen. Oh God, I couldn't remember Evergreen. Evergreen boat gets stuck in the Suez Canal, holds up global shipping through the Suez Canal for days, and now it's still going to take another week at least to move all of those ships through the Suez Canal. And that is going to have an immediate and tangible impact on components shipping all over the world. And the Evergreen memes have been hilarious, but corporations, manufacturers, distributors, all the way down to the end consumer, for weeks, we're going to feel a pricing and ripple effect just from one boat, let alone the grander and larger global impact that this last year has had on consumer electronics and consumer durable equipment. So this is insane. What's kind of interesting to me is seeing, Xiaomi and Samsung played really early, getting phones out at the very beginning. I mean, announcing phones and leaking phones in late 2020 to get devices out into market in January. New Galaxies usually didn't show up until just before MWC. and the S21 was shipping in January this year. When you're a massive organization like Samsung, who not only makes the phone, but also makes a number of the components inside the phone, you probably have a better a better outlook, I should say, on what some of the near term challenges are going to be. So then let's expand that to other manufacturers. Sony would normally be chatting up an Xperia more aggressively right now, but it seems to me like whatever Xperia 1 follow up we get will probably be delayed. As these component shortages hit Sony, Sony's smartphone division is profitable, and I don't think Sony is going to let it ride. Well, maybe we'll put out a phone and we'll cut some costs and we'll sell it at a loss. That's not Sony. So Sony still views themselves as like an Apple tier premium electronics manufacturer. So if they can't make a profit based on the parts that they can buy and source today, as these component prices climb very aggressively, you wait, you push pause, you hold off on buying high in the market, hoping that eventually this will balance out and then prices will come back down to something more reasonable again. Same time, let's say you've got a smartphone division that's in the red, like an LG. It doesn't make sense to buy high for components in the market right now and try and push a phone out the door when you're pretty confident it was already going to be in the red for that division. So you push pause, or maybe you just start the process of ending that smartphone division. This is, I mean, and we're just talking about one little niche aspect of consumer electronics that we're smartphone fans. You know, I love getting into mobility tech. This is increasingly going to spread throughout every other sector. We saw, you know, the GPU situation for computers, desktop builders, gaming PCs. That was one part of the equation. We're seeing CPU manufacturers having issues getting processors into consumers' hands. We're seeing, you know, system builders having issues keeping servers up and running. So this is big. 2021, the middle section here of 2021, I think is going to be a very interesting time. If you can source part, piece, and build a new computer right now, you can get your hands on that GPU. I'd say go for it, even if you're maybe buying a little high. If you can hold off and wait a little bit, we might be talking 2022 and like midway into 2022 before some of this stuff has kind of balanced back out again. This consumer behavior is also going to cause panic buying by manufacturers. Like they're going to stockpile parts to make sure that there isn't any interruption. But when you overbuy, that jacks up the pricing on components, and then other people see, oh, well, now I'm having a harder time sourcing, we should stockpile too. It's like toilet paper, but for processors. So absolutely something we need to keep an eye on. I don't know when this calms down. And unfortunately, like, I don't have a good predictive sense on this stuff. Like, I'm often caught by surprise, just like every other sort of average consumer out there. But I would definitely be anxious. You know, if you were considering a smartphone purchase over the next couple months, keeping an eye on pricing is going to be really critical. You know, again, it's Samsung launched early, aggressively pushed sales forward, and then also had a bunch of trade-in deals on Galaxy phones in a very Walmart style business move. And to me, I feel like that was a conscious effort to drive out competition and to upset the used market so that people would be locked in on Galaxy phones early in 2021 and have fewer and fewer competitive choices as we got into the second half of 2021. As I, you know, again, Samsung and Apple can eat up a ton of distribution, a ton of chip fabrication, a ton of parts and components, and make it very difficult for any other company to compete. So it makes it even more precious. Like, we saw the OnePlus 8 Pro struggle to stay in stock last year. A OnePlus 9 Pro might end up in that same position. If you can get one, if they made a batch of them and you can land one, you might be doing better than most other people out there. So Simon says Hypno. The 888 is uncomfortably hot for toilet paper. Uh, from Clifton M. Thomas, this is open up opportunities for companies like MediaTek. To a degree. Actually, because of how Qualcomm is playing in the upper tier and is starting to get more mid-ranger chips out, like the 780 and the 860, there is an opportunity for MediaTek to come in with some interesting price performance comparisons. The Dimensity 1200 looks like it's going to be a great chipset, but the problem for MediaTek is going to be very similar to the problem for Qualcomm. Qualcomm makes a ton of stuff, but they also have to license a lot of things. MediaTek is in a similar situation. So individual components and licensed parts and pieces still might be difficult for Qualcomm to get their hands on. It's going to be even more difficult for MediaTek. So depending on how all this plays out, MediaTek could be hurt worse than Qualcomm in the short term for getting parts and pieces out to their manufacturing partners. It's like I said, it's really complicated and it's really tangled how all of this stuff interconnects. So that was the doom and gloom. And again, the evergreen boat cracked me up. I needed to find some way of mentioning it here. So Xiaomi putting out a warning. We don't know what the global fallout is going to mean for smartphone pricing, smartphone components, but they did have some good news to share that the Mi 11 Ultra is real. It's for real, and it looks like a crazy phone. When we say like, oh, smartphones are getting so boring, uh, you've got to be really bad at smartphoning to look at a landscape this competitive with so many now individual niche competing options and go, it's just not wowing me. I mean, it's just all hype train. Yeah, you need to look one step outside of your own sort of bias bubble and see like this is nuts. The Mi 11 Ultra is taking a significant shot at phones like the Galaxy S21 Ultra. And again, very fair. Xiaomi is saying, hey, I feel we can very clearly target who we're competing against by calling our phone the Ultra also. But this isn't just how can we copy Samsung and then undercut them for price. Xiaomi is properly growing up here, similar to the OnePlus with the OnePlus 9 Pro, making a very clear, uh, making a very clear example of their flavor of a premium phone. The Mi 11 Ultra is a platform showcase for what Xiaomi is trying to accomplish here. And immediately, what I've got up here on the screen is the GSM article. Again, does GSM Arena really not put a byline on these write-ups? Because this is a really good write-up on what was announced. I don't know who wrote this up. I'm really going to have to bug Ricky about that. They should be putting a byline here. Anyway, Peter. Sorry, it's just right here. Peter wrote this up on GSM Arena. They need a better byline than this teeny little Peter by the date. All right. So first of all, camera tech. This phone uses, I believe this is now the largest primary sensor in any smartphone. Oh, they're saying it's the largest sensor ever used in a mass market phone. So I believe the only other sensor that's been larger was that weird experimental Panasonic, which had a proper 1-inch sensor. The Mi 11 is a 1/1.12. That is so close to being a 1-inch sensor. That's insane. That's real big. The OnePlus 9 Pro, significantly larger main camera sensor than the S21 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It's bigger. It's just a little bit behind the S21 Ultra's main camera sensor. This Mi 11 Ultra is bigger and noticeably bigger than the sensor in the S21 Ultra. So when we start talking about depth of field, dynamic range, pixel binning capabilities, HDR capabilities, my guess would be this big of a sensor with this big of a lens and aperture, that the Mi 11 Ultra will probably be a little bit more prone to lens flaring, especially like rainbow blooming, ring flares, J.J. Abrams style like streak flares that happen through, and will probably also be a little bit poorer performer for sort of ghosting and fringing when you're working closer to your minimum focusing distance. And then everything else is going to be crazy better. Softer depth of field, shallower depth of field. Low light performance is probably going to be another noticeable step improved over what we're currently doing on these larger sensor phones. The optical image stabilization might be a little trickier. The bigger you make the sensor, the harder it is to stabilize. So you need smarter and smarter hardware software combos, but with so much sensor being moved around in a very shaky platform, when you're holding a phone and moving to get video on a phone, that could be tricky. Also, I'll be curious to see. This is using a Samsung sensor, so it's not one of the Sony sensors, where I still feel like Sony is a step ahead for autofocus, even on their pixel binning sensors. But they're saying that this is going to have a flavor of dual pixel autofocus, which I'll be curious to see how that plays out. There aren't many good examples of the faster and more accurate autofocus on pixel binning sensors. I do believe that's one of the reasons why the Xperia 1 Mark II, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and the Galaxy S21 don't use pixel binning sensors. Those phones have phenomenally good autofocus. The Xperia 1 Mark II autofocus is Skynet scary good. Before you can even recognize the scene in your viewfinder, it has already identified the eyeball of the person you're taking a photo of. And maybe even the eyeball of your pet. It is like Terminator vision. How scary good the Xperia autofocus is. So I would also be curious if this huge sensor on the Mi 11 Ultra can manage better performance than on the Samsung Ultras. Because I think the shooting experience on the Ultra is actually not as nice in the hand, real world, as the S21. Because of things like the autofocus. I just trust the S21 better than I've trusted Samsung's 108 megapixel sensor. Getting back into GSM arenas right up here. The other two cameras are also really solid too. So the ultra wide is the the IMX 586. So that's the half-inch 48 megapixel shooter that we saw 2 years ago as a primary sensor. That was the same, I believe it was the same sensor. Someone please correct me, I might be wrong here. But I believe it was the same sensor that was used in the OnePlus 8 Pro ultra wide. So again, half-inch 48 megapixel. That sensor was awesome for the ultra wide. I really liked the OnePlus 8 Pro ultra wide. And then that same sensor is also used in their telephoto. So this has the periscope, the moving camera lens, and then it's backed up by a super megapixel dense sensor too. So this should be a better telephoto performer than what we see on the Galaxy S21 Ultra. So the they actually mentioned this here in the GSM Arena article. The S21 Ultra has a 10 megapixel 1/3.24 inch sensor. So what the Xiaomi is going to use is a not a third inch sensor, but a half-inch sensor with 4 times the number of subpixels. So their ability to not only improve performance in lower light conditions, we should also get much better HDR performance off of that sensor too. Again, it's 48 megapixels, but really what you're looking for when you bin that down is a brighter and more vibrant 12 megapixel image. It's a 4:1 image compression. So big battery, super fast charging. It's 67 watt wired charging. What is it? It's reverse wireless charging, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, Snapdragon, what is it? Snapdragon 888 with a new 3-phase cooling system. That's kind of important. The Mi 11 runs kind of hot. And I feel like Xiaomi is just letting the phone run a little hotter to keep up a more stable performance, where Samsung throttles like crazy. If they're doing a 3-phase, it sounds like the internals here are going to be closer to what we've got on the OnePlus 9 Pro. And we're going to be talking about the OnePlus 9 Pro here in just a bit. Stereo speakers, but no headphone jack. And it does have an IR blaster, Bluetooth 5.2, Wi-Fi 6E, so support for Wi-Fi 6 extended. And of course, NFC with an IP68 ingress protection rating. What I don't believe we've got, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't believe we've got pricing for all of the various models. Because again, there's going to be sort of a Chinese variant and then there's going to be a global variant. But here, let me get back into the GSM Arena article here. Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra will be available globally. In China, the base model has 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, and it will cost, was that 6,000 yen? So we're somewhere around over $900 in US if we were just doing the currency conversion. They do have a European pricing here. So in Europe, the model with 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage will be available for $1,200. So it's a clear shot at Samsung for the S21 Ultra. I don't believe we're going to have any kind of fancy desktop computing mode. We're not going to have stylus support, but everything else, feature for feature, looks really strong. So I had to make fun of, another tech outlet here because I like the guys over at Tech Radar. I had some lovely lunches with some of the editors and writers there, and I like hanging out with them. But just how easy it is to get some of this stuff wrong, and I feel we can all have just like a fun facepalm, all in love, but a fun facepalm at some of this stuff. One, they get the camera totally wrong. So hold on, I got to scroll down to where's cameras and battery life. On the back, we've got a 50 megapixel f1.12 main camera. Well, an f measurement is your measurement of the aperture, which right after they talk about the 48 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide. The aperture on the main camera is not f1.12. It's a 1/1.12 inch main camera sensor. But then this is the part that cracked me up, and I need everyone to lovingly chuckle at their expense here. There's also a 20 megapixel selfie camera on the front. What's the point of having a front camera if the rear display means you can use those super cameras for selfies too? We've no idea. So, the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra is notable because it's got this teeny tiny little ticker display on the back, which Xiaomi showed it off as a way to have notifications and alerts when your phone is face down, and it can also be used to compose when you're shooting off of those rear cameras. Now, can anyone in my live chat think, why would you still need a selfie camera on a phone when the rear camera has a teeny tiny little ticker display? Can anyone just possibly conceive of some use for a front-facing selfie camera on a telecommunications device in the year 2021? Heiki was the first out of the gate. So we got Heiki saying video calls. We've got Gary the Fireman because FaceTime. Well, I'm sure the Xiaomi won't be able to use FaceTime. Heiki again, video calls, all in caps. Dave Burns. Casio is absolutely correct. I can't think of any reason. What are phones even used for? I look at so okay. I'm really not trying to trash him. I genuinely like the guys over at Tech Radar. They really do need a little loving snark over in that line. Al Zumbino, what is a phone? I am so interested. I'm working out like what my budget for review devices is going to be over the next quarter and over the next half of this year. I might need to buy a Mi 11 Ultra. This just looks stupid, stupid solid. Xiaomi's hardware game has been so stinking strong. And I feel like it's one of those things where it's getting once you can start looking at the global variants for Xiaomi phones, they're getting stronger. I can't recommend them in the same way that I can to my family and friends, but from an enthusiast perspective, the notion of importing a Mi 11 Ultra, doing some of your own kind of basic-y software maintenance, maybe flashing a ROM if you get the Chinese variant just to try and save some cash, um, is making a lot of sense. Like if you're feeling kind of left out in the cold for enthusiast phones and other high-performing niche handsets, and like right now in the United States, it's like S21 Ultra, and that's all you get. If you're looking for anything else outside of that, Xiaomi's hardware has been so compelling lately. I mean, my YouTube feed has kind of been flooded with Mi 11 and Poco and Redmi. I'm not super well versed on all of the different categories, but this looks incredible. The recent announcement of the Black Shark, their gaming phone, looks really solid. And if Xiaomi can clean up the thermal performance of the on the Mi 11 Ultra over the Mi 11, then this also starts to make a better argument for a next generation high performance handset for 2021. I've been very disappointed in Samsung. The Mi 11 runs concerningly warm if you're really hitting your phone hard. If the thermal hardware on this also improves and they're delivering these crazy camera experiments, that's pretty good. I'm real happy about that. Kyle Ruggles, does Xiaomi have a promise for updates? I don't believe so. Everything's going to be pros and cons. Samsung is doing much better with more frequent updates. I can't always say they're good updates. I still think the camera on the S21 is not, it's not garbage. It's just a very poor performer for a premium tier phone. They've been better about putting out more software support, and I'll be curious to see if their longer term support really does encompass direct activity from Samsung, or if they're just going to piggyback on more of the security patching being done through Google Play services. Like again, I've been firing up, not only getting the new updates from OnePlus, but also a part of that were security patches that came through Google Play. So it was a twofer. Again, if you haven't reviewed the OnePlus 9 with Google Play system updates and the OnePlus updates, then again, you're really bad at contributing to conversations about smartphones. So I don't know what their promises might be, but again, it's fair to be critical. There will be concerns. You're spending €1,200 on a phone. You're going to expect some attention, and then also some of Xiaomi's business models. Like on one of the last Xiaomi's I used, I fired up the calculator, and it started asking for a lot of personal data, which I don't feel a calculator app needs. So I went off and installed a third-party calculator instead. You know, that kind of stuff also needs to be examined. Again, something to keep our eyes on. But if you're a hardware junkie like I am, the hardware makes me real Twitter-pated. I'm very anxious. I'm very curious to see what Xiaomi can do with this kind of hardware. So, let me take another sip of water here. Sentinel 909. Xiaomi's only downfall is the software, and even that is a matter of taste and preference. Yes, even the ads. It's very subjective. Again, the last Xiaomi I spent a lot of time with was a Mi 9. And again, my takeaway from that was very positive on the hardware. the software really wasn't my bag. But I've been looking at what MIUI, how it's evolved, and it at least seems better integrated into the whole of the phone. Like, it seems not just like some tacky iPhone copy skin that's just sort of slapped on top, and then you get one layer deep and then you're kind of into an ugly stock Android. Like, those days are so far removed from where we are today. All right. Let me take one more sip of water. We're at 10:25. I feel we've got a good solid half hour here. Who wants to chat OnePlus 9? Let me kind of stretch. I don't know no one told me to stretch, but I'm going to do it. Highlighted comment from F. Mooney. Glad to see a return to more exciting hardware. Those were some dark years. Alice Bockley. Talk to us, Juan. Is it worth it? So here's the deal. I am very positive on OnePlus 9 Pro. I'm consistently disappointed and frustrated by armchair quarterbacking tech conversations where people who were probably never going to handle, buy, or use the phone are very confident in their opinion that it's just not worth it for the money, man. I mean, if it were more exciting, I'd be more excited, but it's just not exciting enough. If it were more exciting, I'd be excited. You know, that kind of weak sauce, faux tech intellectualism is boring, hack, trite, and contributes nothing to the conversation about how these things actually perform. What I see in the OnePlus 9 Pro is a solid premium flagship argument against a phone like the S21 Plus. I really need folks to kind of judge these comparably. If you aren't properly accounting for all of the specs of the device at a certain price, but then you're making these casual, like, I don't know, I mean, it just doesn't bring anything interesting to the table. You could just get a Galaxy S21. You're very bad at tech. Like, really, you're awful. Like, you are bringing nothing of substance to this conversation, and all you're doing is patting Samsung owners on the back, and that's good for your SEO. When you break it down, the OnePlus 9 Pro is feature for feature a great competitor against the S21 Plus. You get a higher resolution display, you get faster charging with a crazy good 45 watt power delivery charger in the box. You get 256 gigabytes of storage. You get 50% more RAM. I mean, definitely controversial whether or not you can use that just as a phone, but it's there and you get it. You get a significantly larger main camera sensor, a ridiculously larger ultra-wide sensor, and the telephoto is not as good as Samsung's telephoto. The main win for a Samsung is DeX. So if you have any design or any idea of using your phone as some kind of laptop or desktop replacement hardware, DeX is a phenomenal add-on. But the flip side of that, OnePlus is doing a much better job with the thermal performance. So if you use DeX heavy on an S21, your experience is not going to be any better than using it on an S20. You're going to be throttled. You're probably pre-throttled out of the box. And your performance is last gen. As a phone, you don't have any fancy desktop mode, but this OnePlus 9 Pro has not slowed down for anything. It is shocking. Like, how consistent this has been. So hold on. I got to see if I can find this here. I should have pulled this up earlier in my in my testing here. Oh, dang it. Okay, hold on. I've got to pull up Big Sur. Talk amongst yourselves. This is excellent podcasting here. I meant to pull these up. This is like my gaming graph from the S21 against the, and I'll show you what the OnePlus 9 could do. So go into my project here. Where is Galaxy S21 stuff? Device shots. And did I really not save it? Oh, dang it. Where did I put it? I'm going to have to dig it up later. Anyway, gaming performance on the S21 was very disappointing. I was playing a game, Undead Horde, and it would regularly drop to a very, very low frame rate. We were talking like 30 frames per second, where that same game on the OnePlus 9 Pro, if you remember what that graph looked like from my S21 coverage, let me pull this up here. So this right here, 60 frames per second, 30 minutes of gameplay. It's like a table. This is one of the flattest graphs I've ever seen in this game. And as the game goes along, it gets more and more demanding on the phone. So the phone is struggling to keep up with more and more units to control on screen. And the only little dips here that you see, those are dialogue sequences where the frame rate changes as you zoom in and do a close-up in a conversation, then you zoom back out, or you teleport to like your little crypt. Undead Horde is a very PC style and a very demanding game. This same graph on the S21 looked like a stock ticker. It was spiking and then dropping and then spiking and then dropping and then spiking and then dropping. And this holds true for every single one of my real world performance apps. There's only one test. It's the video transcoding and power director, where the S21 can legit beat the OnePlus 9. And that seems like more of an optimization issue. We've got some other optimization issues to talk about with the 888. And video rendering is definitely one of those situations. But photo performance, the hardest benchmark I run, the OnePlus 9 Pro murked. I mean, not even close. Just stomped on the Galaxy S21. And that's a very heavy thermal throttling kind of test. It processes 200 raw photos from a Sony A7 III, not the A7S, the A7 III. 200 raw photos from a full frame mirrorless camera. And I break it up into two batches. So it's the first 100 photos and the second 100 photos. The OnePlus 9 was almost as fast with its second 100 photos as the Galaxy S21 was with its first 100 photos. So thermal performance is just a tier above. I'm way less anxious about the 888, seeing it and how it's been used in the OnePlus 9. The OnePlus 9 Pro shows us this is absolutely a high performance chipset. It's a little finicky. It definitely is a little twitchy. But if you build the phone properly around good thermal performance, this is a much better and much more consistent performer. And to me, that kind of feels like Samsung was kind of taking a phone like the S20 FE and finding other ways that they could kind of cheap out on the Galaxy S21. It's the S21 is not only less phone than the S20, it's not built as well, at least from what I can see. When you do, like, I've seen a couple teardown videos, there doesn't seem to be any fancy thermal processing or thermal hardware. There's like a copper shield between the main board and the screen, and that's about it. So these claims from OnePlus that you're going to maintain a smoother and more consistent frame rate, the phone has a higher resolution display, you get faster charging and a fast charger in the box, and the OnePlus 9 Pro is only about $20 more than an S21 Plus full MSRP to full MSRP. This is, unless you really need telephoto and DeX, the OnePlus 9 Pro is the better version of this phone in every other metric, in every other benchmark, and compares price for price. Now, again, Samsung's going to try and muscle in with trade-in offers and constantly putting the phones on sales. But I don't believe there's a sale on the S21 Plus at $256. I believe that's still $1,049. Well, for $1,069, you get a better all-around phone with the OnePlus 9 Pro. And like taking it out to shoot some photo and video samples, like I said, 8K video, and the phone is not dropping frames. It's not stopping for anything. It's keeping up with a very aggressive shoot and just keeping it on point. Photo performance, it's on point. I haven't experienced that really awful shutter lag that we used to have on the OnePlus 8 or the OnePlus 7s. Speakers are really solid. There is pass-through audio. Samsung got rid of pass-through audio for headphone jacks on the S21. So if you've got a pass-through dongle, if you plug this into a Samsung, it goes, I don't know what that is, USB device not recognized. If I plug this cheap little dongle into a OnePlus, I get music. I can plug in headphones and hear things. So again, just every little piece, every little consideration. Going from OnePlus 8 Pro to OnePlus 9 Pro feels like I'm getting more phone and that I'm not spending a ton more to get it. Going from Galaxy S20 to Galaxy S21, even though the price drops, and now Samsung is trying to be more of a OnePlus style manufacturer, it doesn't feel like as much phone. It doesn't feel like you're getting as much as what you can get on a OnePlus right now. So every phone has its own specific vibe, has its own specific feel. Samsung's pivot makes it look like it's trying to step on OnePlus's turf. We're going to sell our phones for less, and we're going to whittle out a whole bunch of features, and now it's just like this core streamlined edition of a Galaxy phone. I think OnePlus does it better. I think OnePlus plays that game better. The price performance is better. The gaming graphics and CPU performance is better. You get more stuff in the box. Like, you don't have to go and also add accessories to your purchase if you want to take advantage of fast charging. The phones have screen protectors pre-applied. I mean, it's $10 that OnePlus just saved you right there. Just having the screen protector applied. So it's I do not understand a gamed comparison. OnePlus 9 Pro against Galaxy S21 Plus. If you're talking about the 128 gigabyte S21 Plus on sale, you are not staging a fair comparison between those two phones. You're going to compare a OnePlus 9 Pro with 256 gigs of storage. You need to compare a Galaxy S21 Plus with 256 gigs of storage. The screen on the OnePlus is more expensive. The charging capabilities are better. The main camera sensor and ultra-wide camera sensor are better. It's like, I don't know what we're doing as tech reviewers if we can't fairly point out these types of moving goalpost and rigged comparisons. The main things an S21 is going to win at, it's got a better telephoto sensor, and you can use DeX. That's it. That's it. That's literally it. Oh, and I think on the S21 Plus, the battery's 4% larger. But battery life on the OnePlus 9 Pro has been solid. Like, I was in line for almost 8 hours of screen on time over an average day of use, like lots of video streaming, a quick jaunt out to a Target, so some 5G, took some photos, uploaded some photos to Discord. Yeah, like I was in line for 8 hours of screen on time without throttling the processor, like Samsung has to throttle the CPU on the S21, and then also using 120 hertz adaptive. So full refresh rate on the display. I feel like that's good. I feel like that's solid territory for a screamer phone that, oh, and a little gaming. Like, I played a little bit of the new update for Anima, and I went to bed leveling up my character on Titan Quest. So I really don't get these techies. They're not techies. They're brand fans. At this point, if you're like, no, I mean, it's just not exciting enough, I just don't think there's any competition here, it's all just hype, then you've obviously never used one, or you're gaming your conversation just to say nice things to Samsung owners, because the OnePlus 9s have been brutal competitors. And I'm not even saying they win in every category. There are categories where they don't win. But to try and pretend like this isn't incredible competition is just silly. I mean, it's really gamed. It's really obvious. It's not honest at all to use this phone and be like, no, I mean, like, it's just not exciting enough. Screw you. So I kind of went off on a tear there. I kind of went off on a tangent. What do we want to what do you want to know? What do you want to ask? Because I'll spoil my by the benchmarks here if you guys want me to pull up charts and graphs and stuff. DT no Juan likes the OnePlus 9. Shocked. um. Vadziko say, is the lack of OIS in the 9 noticeable against the 9 Pro? I have not shot as much on the 9, but yes, when you start talking about improved and larger camera sensors, when you're trying to compare photo and video quality, so much of what we see now is software, is more EIS. The actual range of movement, you don't want the swivel we used to put on hardware optical image stabilization back in the day. Like if you're really talking about those 1/2.7 inch image sensors, like we used to use back in like the G4 and V10 days, Galaxy S6 days, smaller sensors. When we were moving those around more aggressively, we got that really jello-y effect. That is magnified when you start expanding to a larger image sensor. So a lot of what you see, and why it doesn't really bother me when you pick up a phone like the Velvet and it doesn't have hardware OIS, so much more of that is now software backed. Overscanning, batch processing a group of raw files just stacked on top of each other. The software stabilization for video is now heavily cropped. So you crop in on the image and then you can kind of wiggle the frame around through software as opposed to moving the whole sensor around or moving the lens around. In hardware. So you have to know where the hardware image stabilization is going to make a bigger difference in your style of photography or in video. I think the places where it's most noticeable is when you're pushing a camera to its lighting limits. If you're driving a OnePlus 9 and a OnePlus 9 Pro harder in very, very dark conditions, the 9 Pro, it's just easier to get that image back out with a little less handshake or motion blur. That's where OIS is just contributing to the shooting style. If you're shooting in good light, it kind of doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. So like all of the video clips that I showed in that 8K vlog, even in the cloudier sections, I'm still pretty well lit. I don't know that we would have seen as practical a difference if the OnePlus 9 could shoot 8K video, of course. But I don't think that there would have been as practical a difference there because so much of what you saw in that vlog was really the effect of software stabilization. To me, it's disingenuous to talk about hardware like OIS or larger sensor sizes if you're not demonstrating the practical differences. So like when a Verge editor goes out there and says, oh, it's just not worth even comparing to a Pixel 5. Well, no, you're lazy. It is absolutely worth comparing to a Pixel 5 if you look at an iPhone 12 Pro Max at $400 or $500 more than a Pixel 5. The difference you're going to see here is much smaller, but is more readily accessible. And it's little things like you go to take a nightscape shot, the night mode. The OnePlus 9 Pro achieves the same quality of a night mode shot just a little bit faster. It can kind of overscan a little bit quicker. The hardware is able to maximize, the amount of time it takes to capture that image. But the OnePlus 9 is still stupid fast. It's still faster at capturing a night mode image than any of the smaller sensor phones out there. So this stuff gets really deep in the weeds. But it's really easy for just a tech reviewer to go, it doesn't have OIS. That's like really lame and cheap. The sensor is huge. Do you, if you can't demonstrate it, you can't really show us that there's a practical difference, then you're just talking out your ass. Like, seriously, then you're really bad at this stuff. So again, sorry, I'm getting like really hyper defensive because a lot of filthy casual tech influencers like to talk about cameras like they know what's going on, but they don't. um, Simon says Hypno. I'd buy it if it had the letters SMSAUNG on the back. From Dave Burns, I do not know if the S21 Ultra has better thermal hardware on it. I actually haven't looked up a teardown on the S21 Ultra, but the teardown that I saw from iFixit on the S21 was very disappointing. And again, that's the ballpark we're playing in. If you're comparing the OnePlus 9 Pro to an S21 Ultra, you're giving Samsung a $200 price advantage, which I think is entirely disingenuous. It is not a fair comparison. Oh, but the screen resolutions are the same. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. We're not comparing people's wallet expectations based on a different metric. That's moving the goalposts. You have to give Samsung a $200 lead to compare an Ultra against the OnePlus 9 Pro. Oh, Sentinel 909. I noticed how when comparing phones, a lot of reviewers completely negate price as an aspect or give it a casual nod, like, but for just a few bucks more, you could get a, and the few bucks is like $200 or requires a trade-in. Yeah, totally rigged comparison if you're just going to shrug it off. And I've seen it in some of the Twitter conversations, like, I was at a carrier store and this family was just putting a bunch of iPhones on payment plans. Yeah, you still got to compare the price. And in fact, that's even worse. Those people are going to be upside down on a phone lease the second they walk out of that carrier store. Oh, I know. I'll just pay $50 a month for 36 months. That's cool. So, I mean, I'm not even trying to put the OnePlus 9 Pro in average consumer territory. This is a $1,000 phone. You should have expectations on using it to a much higher tier, a much higher degree than a Pixel 4a. If you're an average consumer with average needs, you're going to be so much happier shopping between $300 and $500. I mean, those phones are a joy to use. They are phenomenal. When I point out what's going on with the OnePlus 9 Pro, I have expectations of laptop replacement computing with cameras that can hopefully make it so that I don't need to travel with a mirrorless everywhere I go. And that $1,000 phone should help me keep $3,000 worth of gear at home. That's what I'm expecting. That's a completely different conversation. And where the OnePlus 9 is an aggressive competitor. Because the OnePlus 9 is a very similar overall experience from what I've felt here. It's just the OnePlus 9 Pro is a higher trim package. So it doesn't feel nearly as gimped as that separation between the S21 and S21 Plus and the S21 Ultra. Like, there's a hard divide line there. They're two completely different lines of phones. OnePlus 9 feels like the core experience we should expect. And then the 9 Pro, just every individual component is a little bit nicer. That's a good thing. We should want that. I don't get these people that sort of excuse that on iPhones. The iPhone 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max are not as similar in experience as tech reviewers are making them sound like. Oh, and Fat Produce, the fact that they added focus peaking is a nice thing in OnePlus's favor. The other thing I like is that I like how OnePlus has enabled it. So on a OnePlus 9, let me see if I don't have my other capture card set up. I'm going to have to do this real janky. When you fire up, oh, this isn't going to look good at all. My exposure is going to be all wrong. But when you fire this up, you have the option in the Pro Camera app to always enable. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see that. You can always enable focus peaking even when you're using autofocus. That's phenomenal. That's what I use on my Panasonics. I want a clear visual indication of what I'm focused on, whether I'm using manual focus or autofocus, because it abbreviates my dance. If I just trust the autofocus on these larger sensors, it's very easy to critically miss focus. Like I might focus on part of someone's ear as opposed to their eye. These image sensors are large enough that that's going to make the image blurry or softer than I want it to be. But when I can enable focus peaking permanently, even when I'm using autofocus, I can much better, more clearly see what I'm locking focus on, especially in bright daylight conditions. And you don't need to try and scrub it with a manual focus slider. That is a significant practical benefit, and it's way better implemented than what Samsung is doing on the S21. I love focus peaking on the S21. I don't like how it's enabled because it's not persistent. So even when you're in manual focus, when you touch the focus slider, it only keeps the focus peaking on while you're scrubbing the slider. As soon as you take your finger off, focus peaking turns off. So if you breathe, you can change the plane of focus. That's how critical this focus is now on these larger sensor phones. OnePlus does it better. OnePlus's Pro Photo Mode does it better than Samsung. Easy. Easy, easy, easy. I like Samsung metering just a little bit more, but pure capability to capability. The only deficiency here is I really wish OnePlus would give us manual video. Like if Hasselblad can get in there and like, hey, all of these settings that we've got in the photo mode, you should have access to them for video. That would be huge. I would really like that. Oh, Sentinel 909. I'm on a OnePlus 5T and I love it, but I was upset when they dropped the jack to ever get back on the OnePlus train. Yeah, headphone jack thing. I find it's going to be budget phones and niche devices. So I'm trying to get my hands on an ROG because I really want to hear what Asus can do with an ESS DAC. But unfortunately, I feel like that ship has sailed. Again, I got to give OnePlus credit that they're still supporting pass-through. So no matter what USB-C dongle you get your hands on, you'll get some audio out of a OnePlus 9. On a Galaxy, you need to buy a USB DAC dongle, which can be a little bit more expensive. I mean, not troublingly so, but you know, there's a wider range of price performance, and you can't just get a simple audio signal out of a Galaxy S21. From Fat Produce, would you say there is much difference between the ultra-wide fisheye reduction on the lens in the 9 Pro versus the software fisheye reduction on previous OnePlus phones? I am early testing on all the cameras, but I would say it's minimal. Again, when you use software to create a rectilinear image off of a fairly wide, almost fisheye kind of look, you have to stretch and distort the image in novel ways. What OnePlus is doing on the OnePlus 9 Pro, I would say, is better. But I don't feel like that's going to be a critical difference for most people's eyes. Composing rule of thirds or composing, like I really like ultra wide for a center view on symmetrical landscape, right? Some of my favorite, someone recently posted a photo from the S21 Ultra on my Instagram that was going through a library at night. Again, it was the point of the photo was like, oh, it's pandemic and people aren't in public places like libraries, but racks of books symmetrically composed off of that ultra wide, stunning photo. I mean, again, that it came from a phone, just an incredible shot. Low light, dark, just the little accent lights from like the hallways of all of these racks of books. So when I look at that photo, I'm not looking at the corner sharpness. I'm looking at the feel of the overall image. I really just don't care about pixel peeping up in the corners. I'm not going to crop to the extreme corner of an ultra wide photo. And that's really where you're going to see most of the distortion. When you stretch an image to try and make it more rectangular, that you try and remove that barrel distortion, it's up in the corners that you're really going to see those issues. And if you crop to like 16:9, you get rid of the worst offending areas of some of those shots. Oh, Juan is shilling hard for Samsung and OnePlus now. He's not taking LG's exit from the phone market well. I'm really sad. Right now, we'd be talking about at least, some rumors or some early access on LG. And the what we saw, the potential for the V70 was going to be really cool. It's going to be more of like a velvet style form factor, but with like crazy camera hardware. And there was even just an early rumor that they might have tried to do a 4K display. Like it would have been the same resolution as an Xperia. I was on board. I really wanted the rumored V70 to be a real thing, but it's it's looking it's looking real precious for LG right now. If they can come out of the second half of this year and maybe offer up something at the end of the year, maybe, but it's getting rough for distribution and for pricing and components. And then also they're going to have to strike up a bunch of carrier deals because it can be pretty confident that LG's not going to sell unlocked in the near term. It just does not benefit them to make unlocked phones that just sit on shelves and wait for price cuts. DTNL. 4x3 Juan, the only way to consume content. So says Zack Snyder. I still have not sat through the Snyder cut. I keep trying to work up the energy, and then I have other things to do and to work on, and it seems like so much work. It just seems so hard. From Dave Burns. If LG can't get components at normal prices, it doesn't look good for smaller players. I think what we should be keeping an eye on, so many other divisions at LG are doing well. Their appliances are doing well, their TV division is doing well, and their like laptop division, like the Grams, are still selling pretty well. Um, I don't have any inside information here, and honestly, OnePlus LGPR hasn't gotten back to me in a while. Just on I had some background questions about LG Gram and some of their software, smartphone and laptop software, and no one's getting back to me. So I think they're in kind of a circle the wagons, kind of keep things on lockdown kind of conversation right now, which is sad because I really like the team over at LG. I've been friends with them, like I know them pretty well, but when it comes to work, they're not being very forthcoming right now. To me, it would seem that if the company is looking at where to remain profitable and how to make sure that the LG brand is still making it out to consumers, resources are going heavy for the markets where LG hits the best. LG Display is still killing it. Their POLED tech is great. Their bending OLED tech is great. Their partnerships with other like hinges and frame manufacturers is awesome. And then I think all of their consumer goods, appliances, TVs, and laptops, that's where they're probably putting the majority of their focus. And if the smartphone division needs to kind of wither on the vine this year, this would be the right year to do it. Don't force it. Don't put the smartphone division even further in the red to make a phone only to have techies make fun of it, But it means we get less competition, and that's sad, and that's a bummer. This year, we're going to see, I hope, a rise in niche players. I'm real anxious about the Red Magic and the Black Shark gaming phones. Man, really getting all of your money's worth out of this Qualcomm chipset is going to be tricky. OnePlus is already showing a nice lead over what Samsung could do. I have every expectation that a Red Magic with active cooling is going to take it even further. So that's the dance. That's the battle right now. All very broad, all silly, me ranting and soapboxing and complaining about other tech reviewers to the chagrin of the community at our Android. I find it troubling how many people have been able to pick up a OnePlus 9 Pro, focus on the pre-embargo software situation, which we always know is rough from OnePlus. That's a given. Immediately on first day, there was an update waiting for me when I took this phone out of the box, and performance better than a Samsung. Camera app performance better than a Samsung. features and the spec sheet, price for price, better than a Samsung. And we know that OnePlus, while they've slowed down, and we should absolutely remain vigilant and critical of OnePlus's update strategy, behind Samsung's promised updates, OnePlus is still one of the best practical Android manufacturers for getting software out to older phones. So just the fact that Samsung has promised 4 years of software support, OnePlus is garbage. You know what? If they just made their software good, they supported their phones better, they're still one of the best. I mean, it really doesn't get better in terms of speed than a Pixel, and we still haven't seen that Samsung is able to live up to their 4-year commitment with the kind of expectations that techies are putting on other manufacturers. OnePlus is an easy third place. And in most older phones, they're still one of the best. So I understand that it became fashionable to pan OnePlus because they were this sweetheart enthusiast brand that then had the audacity to expand on their product offerings and try and go more global mass market and find other opportunities to make phones at lower costs and have a wider portfolio of gadgets. How dare they? But I can't point to anything on the OnePlus 9 Pro that makes me feel like there's some critical compromise happening here. What are we doing? Your expectations on a $1,000 phone have to be $1,000 expectations. And you can miss me with average consumers. They should not be shopping $1,000 phones. There's the peak of the bell curve, which is going to be really happy between $300 and $500. I'm using this phone, and it's exceeding my expectations on what I thought it could do based on OnePlus's promises and marketing. That's not hype. I really don't get this. No one hypes up their phones more aggressively and with a more toxic conversation than Samsung, and we just let them. Another company has the, you know, they're marketing their phones, and it's just, I just can't handle all this hype from OnePlus. As soon as you hear someone talking about that, like, I'm just so disappointed because OnePlus tried to hype their phones. They don't have anything really critical to say. They're reaching for something to serve as a demerit. It's like when people complain about my videos. I mean, I like everything that he had to say. I mean, he showed how this was different and blah, 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 blah. But his tone, I'm very upset about his tone. He just doesn't need to be so aggressive with his tone. Well, that's a non-criticism. I mean, again, that's someone who's getting defensive and they don't know why. Oh, just OnePlus is marketing. No, the marketing has been actually really sophisticated and kind of classy on the OnePlus 9 Pro. Like, I really like their moonshot ads focusing on Hasselblad. Too many techies took it literally. I tried to take a photo of the moon and it wasn't as good as an Ultra. Yeah. The purpose of that marketing wasn't, hey, you can take photos of the moon. The purpose of that marketing is to remind people that Hasselblad was the company that sent cameras to the moon. That's the aspirational quality of this marketing. To look at that and go like, no, it's just not as good, is like the most knuckle-dragging way to purposely misinterpret what that marketing is supposed to represent. And I thought we were better as techies. Like, I thought we were supposed to be more practical about this kind of stuff. Dave Burns. The OnePlus 9 did not take me to the moon literally. Therefore, it is hype. And Billy Quizboy. Yeah, Apple and Samsung hype their stuff 10 times compared to other manufacturers. Kyle Ruggles. Your tone hurt my feelings. Oh, man. Oh yeah, and Kyle. See, so Kyle Ruggles, long-running online friendship with Kyle, but Kyle is a pro photographer, and again, when it comes to camera stuff, he actually like knows what he's talking about. So I don't know why Hasselblad didn't also focus, pun intended, on all the billboards their cameras were used to capture. It's like the top camera fashion photographers use. It is. I mean, Hasselblad has this incredible reputation for studio photography, medium format photography, these enormous camera backs with huge image sensors. And again, it's a bummer. It's a bummer when that message kind of gets lost because they're not as consumer accessible. I mean, like back when I was super into like Canon photography, I'd always kind of drool over a Hasselblad, but it would be like a $30,000 digital camera back. And I don't got that. It was a reach when I spent $1,000 on my Canon 7D. So I'm 30 times outside of Hasselblad's market. But again, techies are going to take it as, well, it's just this dumb partnership and a label, and it's just hype and advertising. And we all remember the Hasselblad Moto mod. Not this. Oh, not this at all. This OnePlus 9 camera is formidable. And when I get to the camera deep dive, I'm already excited about the samples I'm getting out of this thing. The software has never been better on a OnePlus camera. Still some sticky bits. It's not like night and day we're going to solve all of the issues that OnePlus has had in the past. But man, if this is the path moving forward, I am as excited today about OnePlus and Hasselblad as I was back in the day about Huawei and Leica. And I feel we keep forgetting those critical lessons. It wasn't that Leica built all of this camera hardware for Huawei. It was that Leica engineers worked with Huawei to develop a specific style and feel for how those cameras should perform. And from the P9, the Huawei P9 on, Huawei photography has had a very specific style to it. OnePlus photography has been all over the map. From like the OnePlus 3 to the OnePlus 8, two phones side by side could come up with very different results and different camera sensors and different camera pairings, and some have telephotos and some have ultra wides. From here on, now my expectation is going to be we're going to see a more consistent application of hardware and software so that OnePlus has its own unique vibe to how photos should look. That's what I'm excited about. If it turns out like next year that there's no more partnership and then the cameras go back to wacky experiments and it's more of an Oppo feel where every phone has different gimmicks, then yeah, I feel like that's going to be deserving of some mockery, like some hardcore criticism and mockery. But what I see here, this is an eminently successful partnership already. First software update. I like these cameras a lot. So, let me just get through a couple more comments here. Simon says, Hypno, Juan, did you see the new Pixel Mindful switching video yet? I haven't. I want to check that out, though. It popped up in my news feed. And Aditya, no, Kyle is a brilliant photographer. Check out his work on Flickr. Kyle Ruggles, man, he's good people. And again, I really like it, what he's brought to some of these camera conversations. From Fat Produce, people who criticize the tone of your videos don't seem to remember that it is always important to question your tech beliefs and preferences in order to make sure that either they hold up to scrutiny or that you should reevaluate your tech beliefs in order to be more accurate. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That is also a lesson I would do well to remember myself. And increasingly, as I've been going through this year of tech commentary, I'm trying to focus more on the fun. The things that get me excited rather than always being the mouthpiece of dissent. I do not like the trends that we see on the top channels for YouTube tech commentary. And that doesn't mean I should turn my channel into a toxic drama channel. Especially after the whole thing with like the Xperia 5 earlier in the year. I got outside. I got some sunshine. I got a little vitamin D. I got a couple extra steps on my pedometer. And I shot a video on the OnePlus 9 Pro. And it was fun. I liked doing that. And I really had every intention of doing more of that. And hopefully, fingers crossed and timing willing, we can start getting some vaccines into people's arms. I can get back to that. Instead of being cooped up here all the time, I want to find that fun. There's a reason why a mobile pocket computer is so exciting. and it's about having a mobile pocket computer. And if I can get out of the office to show that more, then I think all of us are going to have a better time with my videos. From Heiki. Okay, so this is a great point. One thing I like in this situation is that phones have become so good nowadays that we can argue over every little thing. Whatever phone you buy, it's most probably going to be a good one. One has to educate him or herself on the differences and then decide what to buy, but phones are basically commodity because they are so good. That is absolutely true. My concerns with how tech reviews trend, though, is that instead of acknowledging that point as the base level, as saying, like, at $300, you're going to have a great experience. And then we want to see how that gets better as you might spend more. Instead, I see a very inconsistent approach to reviewing where the most expensive popular devices get the most highlight, get the most focus, and then everything is less than that. And that to me is the concern. They're not fairly assessing the same pros and cons, or they're not assessing pros and cons in the same consistent way across all these different devices. They're starting with a conclusion. The conclusion is you should only buy Sam Apple. And then they're working backwards to support that conclusion to make the largest audiences of Samsung and Apple owners the happiest. And that's what I've got a problem with. If a popular tech tuber were out there saying, like, I've got this Pixel 4a, this phone's awesome. Now, what's better than awesome? Let's check out a phone that costs twice as much. But instead, you've got editors from The Verge saying there's no point in comparing the camera on the Pixel 5 to a phone that costs almost twice as much, which is patently untrue. And again, I got to throw a huge thumbs up to Nick Gray, because his recent camera comparisons at Fandroid have weighted that really heavy. Like, Pixel 5 is his benchmark. And then he's comparing more expensive phones against that as the benchmark. And that's smarter. I feel like that's more intellectually honest than what some of these other reviewers have done. Loki Head, the new Hasselblad 907X is only $6,700 if you're interested. One, I'm super interested. Two, I can't buy that camera. Paul, you went outside? What is it like? Do people still dance? Well, I did do some stepping in that little challenge that Gadget Goddess sent my way. So I'm still doing a little dancing. That was good. And Dave Burns 2, Pixel 5 continues to blow me away. Again, I feel like that's the standard. That doesn't mean you can't do better, but the consumer experience on shooting on a Pixel is so stinking good. I mean, it's so streamlined. The UI is perfect. It's on mid-ranger hardware. The app outperforms my experiences with the S21. And it is just the example of how you create a premium point-and-shoot consumer experience. You want average consumer? It's Pixel 4a 5G and Pixel 5. And Pixel 5 if you need to step up to 60 frame per second video. All right, folks, we should probably wrap this up. I'm already over. I was going to try and cap it right at 2 hours. We knew that wasn't going to happen. But, folks, so much more coverage is going to be coming out on the OnePlus 9. I've got some follow-up, some reviews coming out on some accessories. I didn't even get to the T-Rex. Amazfit sent this over. It is just a monster watch. It might be a little too manly for me and my dainty, petite little hobbit arms. This watch looks ridiculous when I'm wearing it because I'm not a super tough firefighter guy. But it's phenomenally good hardware. So there's going to be some commentary on that. The UPerfect, the laptop dock, which is giving NextDock a run for its money. I've got another smartphone review coming out on a phone that's a light edition of a more mainstream, more higher tier phone coming out that I can't say anything just yet on, but really cool stuff. I'm in the middle of it. We're in the middle of harvest season right now, and we're gonna get all this stuff done. So, oh dang it! And wrapping this up, Paul with a ton of tier 1 subs. What do we got? We've got gift subs for Dodo95, Loco Rudy. We've got Goran Petrovic, Brother Bamboo, Kung Fu Penguin, Men99, Pacanator, Goat Choton and Guido Killer Pimp. I mean, the best part of this is just making me say people's usernames where I'm absolutely going to fail. Paul, Gary the Fireman, TK Bay, thank you so much for the support, for continuing to support production on these streams on this channel. It's hugely appreciated. And for everyone, as you're participating, sharing content, supporting this community, reaching out and engaging with other creators and bringing them into these conversations. That kind of stuff is huge, and I love you all for it. So, folks, I want you to have an amazing week with your technology. I want you to do awesome with your tech. I want you to be awesome with your tech. I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be well, take care. I'll catch you back.